Welcome to Natural Habitat Adventures Daily Dose of Nature. Today's presentation, Exploring Earth's Primates, Forest Canopies to Human Communities, is brought to you by NatHab Expedition Leader Eric Ramirez. Eric studied marine biology in La Paz, Baja California, where he spent over 2 years researching the feeding habits of several shark species and gained hands-on field experience before working in a genetics lab. He transitioned to science communication and spent 5 years as a naturalist guide leading marine tours in the Sea of Cortez. Eric now leads monarch butterfly expeditions in the high-altitude forests of central Mexico, combining his marine biology expertise with his passion for connecting people to extraordinary wildlife migrations. Eric, thank you so much for being here today. The show is yours.
Thank you so much, Rob. I always impressed with when you read our biographies. So yes, I'm gonna present this topic to you, and the reason why is because before this, I had no idea of primates. I was only able to read a really important book in my life about primates, and I was just very fascinated with all the different interactions and how much alike are towards us. So that's why I decided to investigate more. I brought you a lot of different informations, different data. So just at the end, if you have questions, just let me know. And if I don't have the answer, maybe you can look it up together for the future. So again, I am a very curious person. I like to connect with people. I like to connect with animals. I've been working in NatHab since 2022. I'm guiding monarch butterfly trips. For me, this is a very special trip because you have the chance to connect with nature and also to bring people to these special places, which are considered beautiful sanctuaries. So I told you I like primates, but it was 2 years ago when I decided to make this incredible trip with my wife. We went to Indonesia. My main goal was to see the orangutans because when I was a kid, I was in a zoo and I saw these beautiful orangutans, and I said, it is pretty sad that I'm seeing them behind some bars. What happened if I see them in their natural habitat? So that's what we did 2 years ago, and for me it was just a beautiful experience that I will keep in my heart and my brain forever. So before we start with the primate section, I like to tell you that many times I've heard people saying that we come from monkeys, and a lot of people say that's not true. Some people they say yes, we come from monkeys. I mean, if you compare both pictures, it's undeniable the resemblance, right? Our eyes are pretty similar, our mouths, our noses are pretty similar too. But this statement is actually wrong. We have been utilized this as a wrong statement. So um, the right fact is that monkeys and humans share a common ancestor. That's different. So, like million years ago, one ancestor in common just branched out into two different groups, separate, given origin of the humans and the monkeys. So we can say that we are just cousins, share a common ancestor, but we directly didn't evolve from monkeys. Okay. So now let's talk about worldwide diversity of primate species. And let's start our journey by looking at just how diverse primates really are. When we hear the word primates, most of us might think of gorillas or monkeys, sometimes chimpanzees or bonobos. But the primate family is much bigger than that. Actually, scientific community have now discovered around 504 species of primates. So their primates come in different colors. They inhabit in different places. They have different food diets. They have different social behaviors. They have different sizes of brain sizes. So yes, um, it's just for your knowledge. This is a fun fact. The smallest primate is Madame Mouse lemur, which inhabits in Madagascar, and this little tiny one weighs around 1 ounce. And the most massive certainly is going to be the gorilla, whose weight may be more than 4,000 times as great, varying from about 400 and 600 pounds. So you can see how Like we have a very wide spectrum of sizes in this big group of primates. So let's just start from the beginning, right? How is a primate defined? So first of all, primates are distinguished by several traits that set them apart from many other mammals. First of all, primates have large brains, and these brains are relative to the body size. So that means the bigger the animal, bigger the size of the brain. These brains allow them to have really good, they're really good problem solvers. They have a great capacity of learning, and also they're really good in social behavior. So let's go over forward facing eyes. Many scientists have described that the binocular vision, having the eyes set to the front, it's very typical to see in predators, because predators can, this eye vision allows you to size the depth of field. But some of the primates are actually not predators. Most of them, they eat fruits, they eat leaves, but this is helping out, this feature helping out to size how far distance the liana is, or especially if they're swinging in the jungle. So this is a really good characteristic. And then we have the flexible hands and feet, yeah, often with opposable thumbs or big toes. So this is important to mention that all of the species, except for three, all of the species of primates have opposable thumbs. Some of them they're more rigid, some of them they have other functions, but they have opposable thumbs. And they were adapted for grasping objects or climbing. So then we have social structures. Many primates live in grounds and communicate in complex ways. We're gonna talk about this later. And of course, as a result of having really huge brain, good social structures, the youngs, the baby primates, they tend to live longer with their mothers and inside of the groups, because this is how they learn to survive, but also they learn different social skills as well. Then we have here classification. So we have two big groups. We're gonna call them suborders. So first, the one on the corner, the superior corner, is the Strepsirini group. Those are also the prosimians. Let's say that they are considered as the oldest branch of the primate family tree, and they have curved nose, and they're generally nocturnal with a strong sense of smell. And in this group, we can find the lemurs from Madagascar, galagos, and lorises as well. And then we have a second group, which are the Aplorini. These guys, they have a simple nose, and they're generally diurnal with a graded reliance on vision. And in this big group, we have apes, we have old world monkeys, and we have the new world monkeys. So the great apes are basically the gorillas, chimpanzees, and also we have orangutans and gibbons. And then we have the old world monkeys, which inhabit in Africa and in Asia. And then we have the new world monkeys. This is like the newest kind of group, and they exclusively inhabit in the Americas. And here we can find different types of monkeys, like spider monkeys, like howler monkeys, and tamarins as well. I will show you some pictures of them. Yeah, those are lemurs, bonobos, and these are the titi monkeys, really small, by the way. So I'm gonna go through each continent, because basically primates, they distribute in the tropics, and in Africa, for example, Central and West Africa, basically in the Congo Basin and Plaza Forest, we can find the highest concentration and species richness overall. Here we can find the bonobos in Congo, Uganda, Rwanda, Angola, Cameroon. Also, we can find the gorillas in Congo Republic. We can find the geladas in Ethiopia and Eritrea. Geladas are the ones with these super huge mandibles. By the way, they're not carnivores, they are fruit eaters. And then we have the lemurs, which they inhabit only in Madagascar and Comoro Islands as well. And at the end, we have the mandrills, which inhabit in Gabon, Cameroon, and Equatorial Guinea and Republic of Congo. So let's go over Asia. In Asia, Southeast Asian rainforest, Borneo, Sumatra, Malaysia Peninsula, Thailand, Myanmar, and Philippines concentrate the highest numbers of primates. Here we can see orangutans, gibbons, macacos, langurs, proboscis monkeys, tarsers, and slow lorises. It's just very interesting because we do have some levels of endemism, not as in other places, but the greatest concentration of species is Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, and the Philippines. What about Americas? I told you before, in Americas, we can only find the New World monkeys. And here we have the hotspots of primate diversity in the Americas, mainly concentrated in the Amazon basin. That means Brazil, Peru, Colombia, Ecuador, Bolivia, Venezuela. The richest region for primate diversity in the Americas is definitely Brazil. And we also have more monkeys in Central America, Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, Guatemala, Belize, and southern Mexico, but not as many as in South America. Yes. So for me, diet constitutes really important part of the behavior of animals. I studied the feeding behaviors in sharks for more than 3 years, and I understood that like animals are not eating everything as humans do. So in this case, for example, I'm gonna divide the diet of the primates in vegetarians and carnivores. So here, frugivorous are basically the ones who are eating upon the fruits. Many primates rely heavily on fruits as an energy-rich food source, like spider monkeys, like chimpanzees, orangutans. Folivores means the primates who are eating leaves. So they have a very specialized digestive system with a large guts, which are enables to digest the leaves. So here we have the howler monkeys, colobus monkeys, and gorillas. Then we have the ones who are eating meat, and obviously if they're eating meat and fruits or vegetables or of leaves, also considered omnivores. So I thought before, because within my short mind, that bigger the animal, bigger the prey that is going to consume. So in case of primates, it's totally the opposite, because you see, for example, gorillas, you see orangutans, which are the great apes, are not necessarily feeding upon meat. Actually, they are, as I told you before, they're eating fruits or leaves. And surprisingly, the smallest one, like lorises, like lemurs, are also marmosets are feeding upon small insects. In this case, for example, they have nocturnal habits and they're feeding upon insects. But it's really interesting because the reason why you're eating insects in this case is because they have a higher metabolism. They have to consume constantly these small insects in order to support their life. And then we have omnivores. Omnivores, most of them are baboons in Africa and capuchin monkeys in the Americas. Baboons actually are eating a lot of different things because the conditions in the savanna are harsh. They don't have year-round food like other monkeys in tropical rainforests, but I'm going to explain you this later. So, yeah, what about the great adaptations? So how many times we have seen in movies probably or in videos that different primates are using either sticks or rocks or other stuff to hit, for example, the carcasses of crustaceans, or to hit the nuts in order to get the things inside, or that using this stick to get some ants or other insects. So this is fascinating because this requires a lot of energy and a lot of intelligence to start to use different tools in order to get your prey. So it has been seen in capuchins and also in chimpanzees. They're doing this very often. And then if we go to communication, howler monkeys are the best of the best. They have a very loud, noisy songs, and they're producing to either defend the territory, but also to communicate within the members of the community. Some others primates like gibbons are doing like making duets to bond with their partners as well, and they're pretty loud as well. And if we go over social life, this is very interesting because this varies a lot within different groups. For example, gorillas, they live in family groups led by silverback. Baboons form complex multi-male societies, and tamarins share the job of raising babies across the whole group. But this something really important that happens in these organisms, grooming. Grooming is a really important activity for bonding and conflict resolution. What about locomotion, the way how they move? So I brought you different ways how the primates move in nature. But just to let you know, like more than 80% are essentially arboreal. That means that they live on the trees. So these animals have limbs which are highly adapted for climbing, leaping, and running in the trees. Active arboreal life actually requires mechanical assistance of sometimes long tail and sensitive grasping hands and feet with opposable thumbs and big toes to aid climbing and to ensure basically the stability of the animal in the slender branches. So first we have the arboreal quadrupedal. So it's basically walking on all fours along tree branches. This is very typical in New World monkeys like squirrel monkeys, capuchins, and also in other types of monkeys in Africa as well. These are the adaptations that they have is long tails for balance. They have prehensile in some New World monkeys, and they have flexible limbs for navigating branches. Then we have terrestrial quadrupedal. This is very typical. This is very common if you have traveled to Indonesia. Indonesia, you will see how the macaques are walking with the four limbs, but they are standing on their extended hands. That is different than the chimpanzees and gorillas, which are normally using the knuckles. So they have strong limbs for running and walking on solid surfaces. And then we have, for me, my favorite bractuation or arm swinging. I've seen this before in gibbons, and when I was in Indonesia, I was so astonished because I've never seen something like this before. They have extremely long arms relative to legs, hook-like hands for gripping branches, and they highly mobile shoulder joints. It's a huge, beautiful spectacular if you see them swinging in the jungle. And then we have the vertical clinging or leaping. This is very common to see in prosimians like tarsiers and also lemurs. They have adaptations. They have long, powerful hind limbs, grasping hands and feet, and they have strong tail for balance. And they're just leaping to from one branch to another. And then we have, this knuckle walking. The gorillas and chimpanzees, they have strong wrists and forearms, and the weight is just basically distributed over knuckles to protect the fingers. So I brought you this map to show you the primate species richness. So of course, that more like if we are going from blue color to red, we're going to start to increase the number of species. So if you notice, we have a lot of red coloration in the middle of Africa, and then of course we have it in the Congo, in the Amazon basin as well. So basically, the primates, they distribute in tropical forest and woodland grass vegetational complexes. Yes, and normally the distribution is between this range, 25 degrees north and 30 degrees south. This is the range. Of course, that we have seen different primates living in high altitudes and in other places as well, but this is just the exception. The majority of the species are highly distributed in the tropics. Primates have very similar characteristics, which make them a very homogeneous group. Nevertheless, it is their behavior which creates the biggest differences. Like if you see multiple bodies, they don't change that much, but they display different behaviors, which make them unique species in nature. So rainforest, most primates are in rainforest specialists. Think about orangutans in Borneo, howler monkeys in the Amazon, or lemurs in Madagascar. Rainforests are the richest habitats for primates on Earth, and the reason is because they provide year-round fruit, leaves, insects, flowers, and a three-dimensional canopy for locomotion. Yeah. So highest concentration of primates again is here, tropical rainforest in the Congo Basin in Africa, Southeast Asia, and of course the Amazon, South America. What about the mountains? We have specific species of primates inhabiting these places, not so many, because if you've been in altitudes like above 1,000 feet, you know that the concentration of oxygen is not as good as sea level. It's very difficult for us to breathe. In this case, for example, geladas or golden snub-nosed monkeys or some gorillas in the mountains, they have developed different characteristics to survive these very harsh environments. For example, they have a thicker fur in order to keep the body temperature. Also, for example, geladas, the ones that we have in this picture, geladas, they have a higher concentration of hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is a protein that it's in our blood, in the blood cells, and hemoglobin is in charge to transport the oxygen. They have larger concentration. If you have larger concentration of this protein, that means that you're transporting more efficient the oxygen towards the tissues. Yeah. Geladas are found in Ethiopian highlands, and they have a very interesting social structure, by the way. I've seen them in many videos, and they have this super big teeth, and I thought, oh, they must be carnivorous, but they're not. And the reason why they have this is just to protect the group, but also to show the other males who has the power in the group. So what about savannas? Savannas is the less inhabited place for primates because the conditions are not the best. As a matter of fact, in these places, there are many challenges. There are many predators like lions, leopards, hyenas, eagles. But some of these, in this case, the baboons, they have developed an alert system that it's telling the group that there are some predators nearby the group. They concentrate in big groups, of course, and in these places, for example, water is very scarce, the temperatures are very high, and often the food is also scarce. That's why baboons, they basically are omnivores. It's not by election, it's because if they don't have fruits, they have to start to eat insects, or if the insects are not available, they start to feed upon different things. Some scientists have seen actually, and they cannot explain why, baboons feeding upon baby chimpanzees as well. So here, the strategy is to stay together in order to protect the rest of the group. So what about human settlements? We have seen this very often nowadays because unfortunately, humans, we are radiating in a very large scale. We are just expanding our settlements to different places. And some of these species, they have two options. They either adapt to new conditions or they perish in the process. So I've seen these images. This image is very, very common nowadays, especially in Southeast Asia, like people sharing space with macaques or other primates, or all the way around, macaques sharing space with humans. But this also triggers different problems because more closer the macaques are to human settlements, more problems are occurring because macaques are invading farms or agricultural crops. They're stealing food, and of course, like humans are reacting to this behavior. Yeah. Case of study is the mountain gorillas. In general, the global population of gorillas are between 100,000 gorillas, more likely. But gorillas, they don't belong to the same species. We have two different species, and we have a group which inhabits in the Virunga Mountains of Rwanda, Uganda, and Democratic Republic of Congo. These mountain gorillas live on steep forested volcanoes, and they're adapted to colder weather with long, shaggy fur. These gorillas live in family groups led by silverback male, a powerful yet gentle leader who protects the group. But later we're gonna see how successful these places have become through tourism. But before we talk about tourism, let's talk about threats that primates are facing. Basically, there are many threats, and for me, the most important is deforestation. I can explain you why is the most important, because deforestation also is it's creating a cascade effects which are causing more and more problems. But first of all, we need to understand that according to IUCN, sadly, nearly 60% of all the primate species are threatened with extinction, and more than 70% of primates in Asia and roughly 40% of primates in South America, in mainland Africa, and on the island of Madagascar are listed as endangered. That's a lot of losses in the last few years. So unfortunately, the expansion of industrial agriculture, large-scale cattle ranching, logging, oil and gas drilling, mining, dam building, and the construction of new road networks in primate regions are affecting at the same time the primate populations. Other important drivers are increased bushmeat hunting and the illegal trade of primates as pet and primate body parts, and along emerging threats as such as climate change and human diseases. So of course that some of these populations could be very could survive in the future if we start to remove one of these culprits. But unfortunately, if we don't stop the level of stress on these populations, the populations will not recover in the future. So as I told you before, deforestation is one of the most important, because we don't understand how forests work. Okay, if I tell you that just 1 acre out of 1 million acres of forest are cut off per year, maybe in terms of numbers, this is not something significant. This is not something really important, right? But yet it is really important, because forests function as a huge unity. So imagine yourself, you have a chip processor of a computer. Okay, what happens if you just remove one small part, just a super tiny, super little, you just remove it? So you think that the chip is going to work? No, this is just exactly what happened in forest. If we start to cut off different parts of the forest, the connectivity will get lost. So I brought you this simple example. We have Jorge, our monkey. So Jorge, in a healthy forest, can jump from one tree to another, collecting different fruit, meeting different groups, and exchanging different information. But what happens if in the future we decide to cut off one part of the forest? Unfortunately, Jorge will not be able to search for different food, meet other relatives, and eventually, if Jorge, the monkey, cannot adapt to new conditions, Jorge will die. Yeah, remember that I told you primates are highly vulnerable. Primates are arboreal. They need the forest to survive, because forest is bringing everything. Yeah, places to sleep, places to eat, places to meet. So what happened with hunting and trade? Also a huge problem nowadays. So I've read this article, Global Online Trading Primates for Pets, and the numbers are just, they skyrocket the last few years. And the reasons are more people are seeing in social media that having exotic pets, it's good and it's funny and it's just a trend. Many times I've seen in TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, people manipulating different exotic animals. And of course, if we are showing this to the people, they will think that this is normal. We are normalizing something that is not beneficial for for the population of different primates. Um, Also, many primates are hunted for bushmeat in different communities. And the problem is when they are taken illegally, when they are capturing a baby, often means that they kill the mother. That's why so many sanctuaries are filled with orphans. That's also the biggest problem. What about climate change? We understand, we know, we have seen in different news, we understand that climate change is basically turning everything less less habitable for different species due to the accumulation of the CO2 gases, but also due to the increase of the temperature. Um, as a result, primates who inhabit in the tropicals, they tend to migrate to areas which are more temperate. Unfortunately, what happens, for example, if the primates reach these places, which are less warm, but they don't have the same conditions, they cannot sustain their livelihoods no more, of course that the populations will not thrive in the future, and eventually this species will perish. Yes. So just to let you know, because most of the time when I give in I'm just talking about the importance of protection of different organisms. A lot of people ask me, okay, why it's important to protect sharks or primates or mosquitoes, for example. First of all animals belong to the food chain. Yeah, they play an important role as a prey and also as a predator, so that's why it's really important to keep them alive. And second, because many of them, I told you before, they feed upon fruits, and when they excrete, when they poop, all these seeds are now they spread in different places, and this is how actually the trees start to grow. Yeah, through the power action of the primates. So I like to say that these are like the natural agricultures of the forest. Yeah. So another case of study is the current status of orangutans in Borneo. In Borneo, orangutans face severe habitat loss due to the palm oil plantations, which are fragmented the forest, and they basically displacing them from the origins to the edges, to the periphery, which they don't have the natural conditions to thrive. But there is hope, actually. In different places in Borneo, in Sumatra, they're building sanctuaries like Sepilok in Malaysia also, and Kapliki in Indonesia to rehabilitate orphans and return them to the wild. This is something good that is happening in these areas. And also, global campaigns for sustainable palm oil are slowly making a difference. I'm going to tell you this later, but it's really important to start to be conscious about the products that we are consuming. So I decided to today to squeeze in this slide, because I don't know if you know this woman, Goodall. Probably you know, because she has been in the eye of the hurricane the last couple of days, because unfortunately she passed away. But Jane Goodall, she was a British biologist, zoologist, conservationist, activist, primatologist, and the list goes and goes and goes. And she basically advocates the protection and conservation of multiple primates, especially the chimpanzees. She was like the chimpanzee mother, and she won multiple awards and the respect of the scientific community. And for me, this has double merit, because she was a woman. And this is very interesting, because I think in my experience as a scientist, there are many women who have not the same um, recognition. They don't have the same opportunities. Very few are the ones who are achieving their goals. And Jane Goodall, against everything, she made herself a space in the history of the scientific community, and this is awesome. This is just great. Her legacy now leads many different institutions in different countries. A lot of people follow her. And if you have seen her conferences, her talks, they're just very inspirational. So going back to conservation, what can we do? So I don't know if you watched my latest webinar. I talked about tourism as a very important conservation tool. And I am convinced that conservation tourism, it's a great opportunity to conserve and preserve organisms. It's just fantastic as long as is conducted in a very respectful, ethical, and sustainable way. And using these organisms, using these primates, for example, chimpanzees, gorillas, orangutans, as umbrella species are fantastic to protect many other species. When I say umbrella species, are basically charismatic species that everybody likes and everybody wants to protect, but the protection comes like this. So let's say that we want to protect the population of the mountain gorillas in the mountains of Virunga between Rwanda, Congo, and Uganda. Okay, if we decide to protect the distribution of the gorillas, everything that is inside this place is going to be protected as well. That's why umbrella species are really important to protect other species which are not as charismatic as, let's say, gorillas, orangutans, and chimpanzees as well. So yes, tourism, it's a great opportunity. And most important about tourism is the way how we get to this point where we are attracting guests. So the first step is to build a rehab and rescue centers. So when we make rescue centers and sanctuaries, what we're doing is we're providing safe and nurturing environment for primates who are victims of illegal pet trade, poaching, or human-animal conflict. Second, these places are restoring the primates' physical and psychological health, helping them recover from trauma and neglect. And then some of these places, if the primates are ready, they are reintroduced to the natural environment. These places are really good because are in charge to put all these primates which they had some issues in the past. And as a result, we can attract people to see the primates, to learn more about them, to understand about the livelihood, and to get more money through the park fees. So examples of this are, for example, in Rwanda and Uganda, gorilla trekking is tightly managed. Only small groups and limited time are the rules basically in this place. But if you want to get a permit, it costs hundreds of dollars. But money goes to fund different conservation projects and the community projects as well. Also, we have another example in Madagascar. Lemur ecotours bring visitors into forests where local guides and community-run lodges benefit directly. And in Borneo, of course, we have sanctuaries like Sepilok and Camp Liki in order to educate visitors while supporting orangutan rehabilitation. Personally, I was able to be in Bukit Labang in Indonesia, and this was fantastic because the orangutans were not in captivity. They were at the beginning of the entrance, so it was very accessible for many people. And at the same time, we were able to see the orangutans. So it was perfect because this place was acting as a rehab center, but at the same time, it was acting as a touristic tool in order to bring money to the project of conservation, but also to support the local economies as well. I need to be honest with you. I think it is important that if we want to support tourism, we have to have 4 different elements that have to act together as one. We have the government, we have the tourism business, we have the local communities, and we have the scientific community. So there must be communication among these four elements in order to see what are the needs of each one of these elements, and also what are the challenges as well, in order to preserve what is the most important. In this case, the primates, gorillas, lemurs, orangutans, etc., etc., etc. What's going on here? Wait a second. Yes. So what are the best practices for travelers? So if you decided to travel to Borneo, to, oh, wait a second. Yeah, it's this one. So first of all, is it possible to observe primates traveling with natural habitat adventures? The answer is yes. We have multiple trips, multiple itineraries in different parts of the world. So I'm just going to give you very few examples, but if you want to see, for example, gorillas, you can go to Uganda or Rwanda, and you can see the mountain gorillas there. You can also have the chance to see chimpanzees as well, or Colobus monkeys. If you want to travel to Madagascar, you might stumble upon with different species of lemurs and other type of small primates as well. If you want to travel to Costa Rica, for example, you might able to see squirrel monkeys, spider monkeys, howler monkeys, capuchins as well. If you want to travel to China, for example, you might able to see this very peculiar monkey. It's the I have it here. I'll remember in a bit, but it's a very interesting species of monkey. So yes, like you can see many different types of primates if you travel with us in the future. Best practices for travelers: if you decide to book a trip, just be sure that you're doing with an ecotouristic company, which is certified. And also, let's just follow these guidelines: safe distance. We don't want to interrupt their conduct in nature. Also, avoid feeding. Feeding, not touching, is not really good, because you encourage dependency and can lead this to possible aggressive behavior in the future. No flash. Avoid flash photography. If you want to take pictures, please don't bring in a flash. And travel with locals or certified operators. I think it's just fantastic when you have the chance to take one of these tours with a local guide. Locals have a lot of knowledge. Sometimes it's hard for them to convey everything in our in language, the universal in English, the universal language. But it's very fruitful to be with them, because they have all the empiric knowledge of these forests, of these places. So just my recommendation: do not visit when you're sick. Primates are susceptible to human diseases. Always wear a mask and sanitize your hands if asked, to minimize the risks of disease transmission. And stay on the trails. Yeah, follow designated trails to avoid damaging the habitat and scoring animals as well. So call to action: how can we help? So you don't need to be a scientist or conservationist to make a difference. It's just very easy to support NGOs that actually doing something to protect primates. Making smart choices as a travelers and consumers is always great. For example, look for sustainable palm oil, or when you're buying your stuff, check if they have this sticker that says that they either don't use palm oil, or this palm oil comes from sustainable farms. Also acknowledge that the origin of the goods that you're purchasing might not come from legal origin. So it's just interesting to ask before you buy one of this, because sometimes our wooden goods come from illegal logging. Share what you have learned today. Awareness is powerful. Let's make a ripple effect. And I am convinced that each action, big or small, helps ensure primates to continue to thrive in the wild. So that's it. Thanks for all. I was very happy to be here again. I leave you my Instagram just in case you want to follow what I'm doing. I like photography a lot. I like to take pictures of wildlife. I like to share reels, photos. I like to share information. Sometimes when I'm not guiding, I tend to share something of my personal life as well. And on the right side, you see all my next adventures. I'll be guiding next year the monarch butterfly trips. And this is my email, just in case you have any question, whatever, just email me, share pictures, share comments, whatever. I'm open. Thank you so much.
All right, Eric, thank you so much. So before we dive in with these questions, I would like to ask everyone, or tell everyone rather, that if you do have questions, you can submit them via the question field in the control panel. That's in the upper right-hand corner. Click on those 3 lines and it'll open up the fields, go down to the question field, and that's where the questions will be. All right, so let me ask you this. Do you know, have you ever met or do you have any experience with Jane Goodall?
Like in which sense?
Do you know, I think they're asking if you had met her or if you know her work.
No, I wasn't lucky enough to, yeah, unfortunately, but yeah, her speeches are really inspirational, and she was very simple. She was directly going to the point, and yeah, she had the power to move mountains, to be honest, just in my opinion. But yes, I didn't have the chance to meet her in person. Yeah.
Gotcha. Thanks. So, do you know how the origin of the Yeti started and where that myth might have come from?
Excuse me, can you ask me again the question?
Do you know how the origin of the Yeti started?
Of the Yeti? Wow, I have no idea. I have, yeah. I think it's just like an urban legend, like someone saw something really big in nature. Of course, like it could be like, for example, a Japanese macaque in the snow, and that person over exaggerated the size of the animal and eventually became a legend. And this happens very often when, for example, some people are saying, yeah, I saw I don't know, a shark like 7 meters 7 meters length. It's like, come on, like, no. I think it's just, yeah, it's just people like miscalculating the size of animals. Yeah.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Yeah.
So are humans a primate, and shouldn't they have been included on the classification slide?
We are actually included in this classification, and we belong to the group Hominida. We are very close to the maybe I'm going to show you the classification back again. That's a really important question. Yeah, here we are. Oop. So I didn't include the humans. What we supposed to be here in the next to the great apes. Yeah, next to the great apes, we are the group Homini, and yeah, that's why we shared a lot of our DNA, like between 98% and 99%. Basically, we are super close, for example, to the bonobos and also the chimpanzees, and yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you for that. All right.
Yeah.
We've got a guest who has a sort of a philosophical question. I hope you don't mind tackling it. I guess there is some argument that wildlife tourism can never be ethically practiced because we are encroaching on the habitats and wild places. Do you think that's a valid argument? And what's your take on that?
Oof, that's a very complicated question to answer, but yeah, you cannot do it 100% ethical. Yeah, I'm agree with this comment. The reason is because our simple presence there is affecting the natural movement of energy that is flowing in that moment. And with saying energy, I'm thinking about the conduct of the animals, the behavior, how that, like, we are just a distractor there. Of course that we have an impact, but what we try to do is We try to make as less impact as possible, and also waiting what are the benefits of bringing people to this place. I think it's not the same if we go, for example, to zoos to see monkeys, to see chimpanzees. It's not the same impact as we see them in nature. I think most of the people who travel to these places, either they just want to have a picture, or they're really, really committed to have a great experience that is going to change their life forever. It's just fantastic, because once you're there, it is impossible to deny that we need to protect this precious goods that we have in our world. Yes, I think like if we put it in a balance, yeah, tourism is doing less harm than other activities. I like to say, for example, people who were hunting for decades sharks, just to bring an example of sharks in Mexico, now they're doing something different, and they're bringing divers to dive with the bull sharks. If you ask me, are we changing the behavior of the bull sharks in the water? Probably yes, but it's better to have them alive instead of dead in our tables. So the trade-off it's bigger. Yeah.
Great. Well, Eric, thank you so much for addressing that. It was a really important answer, so thank you for that.
Yeah.
Eric, what's next on the agenda for you? Where are you headed next?
Okay, so for those of you who know, I actually live in Germany. I moved 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago. And I tried every year go back to Mexico to guide the monarch butterfly trips. I traveled to Mexico in December to meet up my family in Baja. Maybe I'll just gonna try to do some trips to see the whale shark and to dive with some beautiful sea lions for a couple of weeks. And then in January, I will start my season for the next 2 months. Yeah. So yeah, I'll go back to my origin.
We always have to go back to our roots every now and again, don't we?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Well, Eric, that's about all the questions that we do have for today. So I would like to throw it back to you for any closing comments you have.
Yes, thank you so much. I still have time to give you a very small story. But now I told you that I went to Indonesia to see the orangutans, but to be honest, I was more captivated by the beautiful swing of the gibbons. Gibbons have long arms. They're super gentle, and it's like they're dancing in the sky. But the thing that I've noticed is that gibbons, in order to reach the branch which is in front of them, they have to lose its hand, the one that they're grabbing in the back. So in a moment, in just a brief moment, the gibbon is not holding anything; it's just suspended up in the air. So for me, I'm thinking like this in my life. Sometimes, for example, if you need to change something, you have to lose whatever you're grabbing with your hand in order to reach the other thing that you have. Otherwise, it's going to be impossible to reach what is upon you. So I don't know. I just saw this as an example in my life, and I said, yes, I love gibbons. Yeah.
Great. Eric, thank you so much for taking the time to present for us today. And I'd like to thank everyone who joined us today. So if you are interested in information on how you can travel with the NatHab, please give us a call at 800-543-8917, or you can send us an email at info@nathab.com. Our adventure specialists are happy to help you out. Join us tomorrow for our next daily dose of nature. You can check out this week's lineup, including registration links, on our website at nathab.com/webinars. We did record today's presentation, and we will have the replay available on the website soon. With that, I will conclude today's webinar. So long, everybody. We will see you next time.